which is from Olajide, all the way from Lagos. He says, hello, good morning. The government's efforts so far have been commendable. We pray this thing goes away as soon as possible. However, some players need to be cautioned as not to send wrong information to people on the event of things. People have a responsibility on playing their part. God bless Nigeria. Amen to that. We have another one. This is from Nicholas Adishina from Apo here in Abuja. It says, good morning, Mr. Presenter and the guest, Dr. Sani Aliyu. The efforts of the NCDC as relates to awareness level in the grassroots is highly commendable, as a lot of traders and other everyday Nigerians, but it is unfortunate that Nigerians don't follow laws and regulations unless one or two persons are made examples of. Enforcement need to be taken seriously. So those are our messages so far. Over to you now, Dr. Sani Aliyu. I believe you want to respond to the observations made.
Okay, thank you. So sorry, we got lost there. Temperature monitoring. So we've already provided a clear protocol to the schools in terms of what we expect them to do. A lot of the things that we have requested are pretty straightforward things. So for instance, when it comes to decontamination of schools, we don't expect them to spend a huge amount of money on fumigation because this is a virus. It's not a rat or an insect. So fumigation really doesn't work. What you need is a regular cleaning of surfaces with dilute bleach. That in itself will be enough, and keeping the environment clean. When it comes to the use of masks, we expect people to use masks in the community anyway. So it shouldn't be hugely challenging to provide masks to students when they go for their exams. Maintaining physical distancing is something that we expect to happen, and also enforcement by teachers when it comes to making sure that students keep to themselves and do not engage in mass gatherings, etc. after school.
Yeah.
But again, I would emphasize that the Honorable Minister himself, the Minister of State, as well as the commissioners of education in the various states are aware of these requirements.
Yes.
And we have worked very hard with WAEC and other stakeholders to make sure that students are able to do their exams in a safe way and do not carry infection back to their homes. The question that had to do with what the states, whether the federal government is just doing things on its own and not helping out the states. Yes. We should remember that education is on the concurrent list, just like health is. There are responsibilities that the state governments and the local authorities are supposed to do themselves. The federal government has been doing a lot for the states, but there's a limit to how far we can go because resources, as we all know, are limited. Certainly from the private sector side, the private schools are in the business of education, most of them, in order to make a profit, to make money. So they need to take up responsibility for some of the protocols that we have recommended and make sure that they are followed. The role of the state government in this regard is to make sure that enforcement is there, you have inspection, and you have monitoring available.
Okay.
So that's what I have with regards to education. In terms of the vaccine, yes, Nigeria is not involved in the actual trials, but science is whatever outcome we get when it comes to vaccines. We have already been meeting with the key pharmaceutical manufacturers. I'm sure when a vaccine is available, Nigeria will not be left behind at all.
Dr. Sani, let me quickly ask you, there was a certain news report where we heard that some universities are working hard to find a vaccine and that they've reached advanced stage. What's the situation now? Have they
Yes,
are working with them?
So certainly internationally, we have a group of in the UK, and there's another group in the United States. They are almost neck to neck in terms of their level of achieving a successful vaccine.
None in Nigeria.
The vaccines, none in Nigeria.
Okay.
No, we really don't have. Well, put it this way: this is pretty high level stuff that requires significant resource investment. I'm not aware of any university in Nigeria that has reached the stage of even going into phase one, talk less of phase two clinical trials. Worldwide, there are phase two, three clinical trials that are going on. We're very optimistic that hopefully by early next year there should be a vaccine that works, that is available commercially, and that we can that the country can engage and bring in and provide. When vaccines do become available, though, they're not going to be available to every part of the population. The likelihood is there will be prioritization worldwide to initially people who are vulnerable, such as the elderly and those with underlying medical conditions. So it will be like a wave. You start, first of all, with those that are most likely to die when they catch COVID, make sure that they are protected, and then you expand and expand and expand, because there won't be sufficient vaccines for 8 billion people to start off with in the world.
All right, Dr. Sani, there's a question here we're itching to ask. Um, Presently we have guidelines to check the spread of COVID-19. We also know that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, also has guidelines to further strengthen our democracy, which is to conduct elections and so on and so forth. Now, we have a number of elections that are forthcoming. There's supposed to be a test on Saturday, the first election in the COVID-19 pandemic in nearby Nasarawa State, with the NCDC and, of course, with the PTF on COVID-19. What do we expect to see in that election?
Oh, absolutely. We've been working very closely in terms of preparing for the local government election in Nasarawa, and this will be the litmus test of whether we'll be able to pull this through. We know how important elections are to our democracy. We know that governance with governance is all about public engagement, but at the same time we have to protect the health of our public. Yesterday alone, there was a meeting in Nasarawa with the chairman of INEC, and one of the members of my team was also there. We have gone through the policy, the INEC policy, in great detail with them. We've had several meetings. In fact, today we'll be arranging to send some of our materials, such as electronic thermometers, over to Nasarawa. We are providing them with everything they need for the Nasarawa elections from an infection control perspective, and we'll be monitoring this very closely. I believe INEC has been one of the few organizations that has really engaged closely with the PTF right from the beginning of the pandemic, from supplying us with logistics such as vehicles, and also by starting their preparation for elections very early by getting us involved. I'm very confident that based on the outcome of the elections in Nasarawa, we'll be able to decide what will happen with the state election. A successful set of elections this weekend in Nasarawa that would give us the information we need to modify any interventions that may be required for the subsequent state elections.
All right. Now, there's a common adage that says one bad apple can destroy the entire bushel. We still have, despite all the media talks, the sensitization messages, cases of deaths, cases of infections, rising cases in America and other parts of the world, there are still some Nigerians who will say that I don't believe COVID-19 exists. There are still some who say that COVID-19 is just an opportunity for subterfuge. That is a means for some Nigerians to line their pockets and become richer and more wealthier, and so on. Now, Dr. Sani Aliyu, I want you to pass a very strong message to these Nigerians that why do you think they need to change their mind immediately and to not to affect the entire system? Because when you have one person who doesn't care, that person could be a danger to the rest of the entire population.
So to say that COVID does not exist is reckless. It's really unfortunate that we continue to have such a level of disbelief in the communities. We know that we have lost people who have died from coronavirus infection. To say that coronavirus does not exist is in itself being very insensitive to the families that have lost their loved ones to this illness. to say that COVID was created for the purpose of making money is silly money. There are people dying. We have seen the pictures. We have seen the images. There are people, you only need to go to any of our tertiary hospitals and ask them. They would show you where isolated and are being treated that are severely unwell. Yes, in Nigeria, we have been lucky that we haven't had the sort of deaths that have been happening in other parts of the world. But this is partly because of the nature of our population, our demography, the fact that we do not have a lot of elderly people. In Nigeria, only about 3% of our population is above the age of 65, and it's about 21% above the age of 65. In the UK, 18% of the population are above the age of 65. So for an illness that primarily kills people above the age of 65, the elderly, the diabetic, etc., you would expect a lot more deaths in those countries than you would in Nigeria. But nevertheless, even one person dying from coronavirus infection in Nigeria is an unnecessary death because this is a preventable illness. If we really want to go back, like to have lost their job because of COVID,
All right.
if we
Dr.
want to
Sani.
get back to where we were before, we've got to follow the protocols that have been laid out. It is for our best interest, it's for the interest of our family and our loved ones to remain safe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sani. We wish to thank you on behalf of Radio Nigeria for making time for us to have a successful program. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you've been listening to the National Coordinator, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu, speaking on the efforts being made by the federal government to contain the further spread of COVID-19 in the country. Of course, that is a general in the fight in the. At this time, we wish to thank the production crew. News producers were Conrad Labe and Hassan Hussein. Online editors, Timothy Bamidele. ICT was handled by Israel Tiokaha. Our studio manager was Prince Afonia Ugweze. Our engineer was Hassan Usman. Photographer Sadiq Sarami. Cameras were handled by Fuluwa Oluyede and Chinedu Mmegwa. Our facilitator was Oluwada Milolaoni. Our producer was Oledo